All right, everybody. Welcome to Yaron Brook Show on this, Tuesday, September 21st. Thanks for joining me. Let's see how we can get this camera. All right, I think that's better. I am, as you can probably tell, I'm in, you can't tell because, as you can tell from the title underneath, I am in Vienna. I am on a speaking tour around Europe. I was in Athens yesterday. I'm in Vienna today. I'll be in Lisbon tomorrow. And it's been fun. It's late here. It's 10:30. I have to admit, I'm exhausted. I kind of set this up, and then I kind of got all the equipment together and put everything up, and then it was like, what the hell am I doing? I'm tired. Way too tired to do the show. So it'll be a short show. And we'll see how long it lasts, but I'm going to try to keep it short because I'm tired. I need to get some sleep, and I got to catch a flight in the morning to Lisbon. I'll try to do some shows from Lisbon. I'll be there 4 nights before I head back to Puerto Rico, so on Sunday. So hopefully I'll be able to do a couple of shows from Lisbon. It's a lot will depend on how good the internet access, the Wi-Fi, and the Ethernet, if there's an Ethernet connection there, is. So I will let you know. We will see. Let's see. Before we get going today, I think I'm gonna talk about today a little bit of what I've been talking about on the road. I've given 2 talks now, yesterday and today, about left versus right, and why I think we need to go beyond left and right, and what I think we need to be advocating for in politics. So a lot of this won't be new to you. A lot of this will be stuff that we've talked about many times on the Yaron Brook Show, but we'll talk about a little bit more today. And I'll give you kind of a rundown of what I say, and then maybe a little bit about the response I get. But primarily, I'm looking to you. You can ask questions. It's been a while. Anything bugging you, any issues in the news you want me to cover. So this is a good opportunity for you. This is for you to opportunity for you to use the super chat to ask me questions and to guide the show in the direction you want it to go. Corey, thank you. Here is for the effort. Thanks for the show. I appreciate it. Landon, when you realize Vienna waits for you. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yes, our target today is $600. I haven't had shows in a while, so it's a slow month. So we have to pick it up here towards the end of the month. So anything you guys can do today would be greatly appreciated in terms of support of the show. So since I'm not going to talk about it during the show, I'm going to get it all now. Now you should give the show a thumbs up. If you like the show, I see people have already given it a thumbs up. Thank you. But don't forget before you leave to click that thumbs up button. It helps. It helps the algorithm. Don't forget to press that bell so that you get notified when I go live. And don't forget to subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, share. So you can like the show. You can subscribe to the show even if you're not watching live. So you can do all that. If you are watching live, I'd appreciate if you use the super chat to support the show and to ask questions. That way, I'll have something to talk about, right? So you can use it there. And of course, if you want to become a monthly supporter, there are all kinds of perks that go along with that. But also, and of course, it helps me a lot. You can do that on yaronbrookshow.com/support. You can do that on Patreon, Subscribestar, and Locals. So trying to increase that monthly steady support, that would be huge. I'm wondering how you like this background, like a black background, just light on me. I'm curious what you think of this effect. Some of you think I look like I'm in a prison interrogation room. No, I'm in my hotel room. I've got a great light in front of me. I'm at a desk light that's really good. So it's doing the light here. And then I basically turned off the lights everywhere else. It is 10:30 at night, so Well, the curtains are closed anyway because I'm going to sleep in a few minutes. I like it. I think it looks pretty cool. So hopefully you like it too. All right. So remember, $20 questions get priority. The rest I will answer, but later. And of course, the more dollars you put on it, the more weight it'll have in terms of the show. Alicia says she does not like the background. She'll take it because I'm traveling. All right, we'll get back to my normal background when I'm home. Alex, thank you. Really appreciate that. Taylor, thank you. Appreciate it. All right, we're getting some Australians, some CHF, that's Swiss francs. I don't know. It was a ghost? What are you talking about? Ooh. All right, let's see. So yesterday I was in Greece. If the setting for the talk was just magnificent, maybe one of the best settings, if not the best setting I've ever had for a talk. I was at the rooftop of a hotel at night, and behind me, actually sunset, so we saw the sunset. Behind me was the Parthenon, the Acropolis, right? And surrounding me was just Athens, laid out before us, just Athens everywhere, which was amazing. And so if you go to my Instagram channel, thank you, James. If you go to my Instagram channel or you go to Facebook, I think I posted some photos. You can see some photos from the event. It was terrific. Just because of the atmosphere, just because being in Greece. I mean, where is it more appropriate to talk about philosophy, individualism versus collectivism, Aristotle versus Plato, which I talked about, than Greece, than the streets in which Aristotle and Plato actually walked, right? This is the same place. We were there. So it's Greece is special. Athens is special. There's just no way around it. It's just this place of giants, and maybe the Greeks don't quite live up to it today, but it's the place where Aristotle was. It's the place where Plato was, and it's where it's the birthplace of Western civilization. It is Western civilization, and being in Athens, walking around the streets, thinking about that, seeing the ruins, is so cool. And then on top of that, having the opportunity to speak, having the opportunity to address an audience and talk about Plato and Aristotle, and in a sense, how they apply to the world as we have it today, how they apply to the politics today. That was fun. That was just fun. I could say, Plato in these streets was preaching X. It was. It was cool. So go look at the photos. I think you'll like the photos. The one of them, me talking the Parthenon in the background with the sun setting, just beautiful. Not me, the Parthenon and the sunset, just beautiful. Anyway, it was a good group. Everywhere there are these COVID restrictions. So we had a small group in Athens. We had a small group in Vienna, primarily because of the COVID restrictions and groups gathering and so on. The event today in Vienna was live stream, so we had a couple of hundred, I think, people watching it on live stream. At least that's what I was told. So the groups are small, primarily kind of people involved in the think tanks that sponsored me in each place. In Vienna was the Hayek Society and the Austrian Center, Austrian from Austrian Economics. That sponsored me here, and I've spoken here before, so it was good. In both cases, I gave a talk about the need to move on from left and right, and I laid out kind of a historical perspective that I'm sure I've shared with you guys, but I think it's sometimes worth repeating. Plus, I don't remember if I shared it with you quite in this context, quite in this format, and I think the lecture from Vienna, I'll try to get the video of it and upload it onto the channel at some point. Although they did not live stream the Q&A, which I thought was interesting. And one of the reasons was that they thought that the audience would hesitate to ask questions if it was being live streamed, because people are worried about the fact that it's on YouTube and people quote them back, and people, I I haven't encountered that attitude in the United States or in the UK, where people are worried about what they say on my show on YouTube because it could get back to them. So I wonder if there's really this fear of speaking now in Europe that I'd never seen before. It is super scary. It is super scary. Alex says Yaron in a toga. No toga, sorry. No toga. Anyway, if you think about it, the 20th century is a what's that? The 20th century is a century in which collectivism, in its most consistent applications, politically, was completely defeated. 20th century is the century in which communism was defeated and in which fascism was defeated. In the West won World War II, crushed the Nazis. And indeed, America proved to the world that in order to crush the Nazis, they couldn't do it without America. The Russians couldn't do it by themselves. The communists couldn't do it. And then over the following 60 years, less than that, 50 years, the world witnessed the difference between a semi-free society like the United States and a communist society, and the ultimate bankruptcy, financial, economic bankruptcy of the Soviet Union. By the early 1990s, the political manifestations of collectivism in the world have been thoroughly and unequivocally crushed. They were gone. Very few people identified as communists. Very few people even identified as Marxist, even though Marxism was very influential. The fascists had long been defeated. Racism was out. Identifying people based on race was considered horrific. So I'd say in the early 1990s, it seemed like some form of Western liberalism in the European sense had won. And that yes, you couldn't say that individualism had won, but certainly collectivism had lost. The collectivism was not anymore a political project, that it was over. And indeed, there were signs that the world was moving in a much more positive direction. There were signs that the world was moving in the direction of capitalism. Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan had completely reoriented the British culture and economy. Ronald Reagan had changed the economic trajectory and the optimism, the sense of life of Americans in a more positive direction. If you just look economically, politically, superficially, America and the West seem to be moving in the right direction. This is the time where we came to observe the rise of the Asian tigers and their success, their adoption of free markets and the huge success that they gained from doing that. Free markets to an extent, of course. It's the beginning of increase in freedom in China and the enormous success and prosperity that generated over the following 30 years. The early 90s was really a time where it was probably the best time in terms of, if you're sitting there and looking at the trajectory of the world from a political, economic perspective, it was the best of times. It was the best of times. Freedom seemed to be on the rise. Economic liberty seemed to be spreading around the world. And Keynesianism had been completely defeated. Nobody admitted to being a Marxist because the Berlin Wall had come down and the evidence of what had happened and the failure of Eastern Europe and the Soviet bloc become evident. China was moving steadily away from its Maoist history towards a direction that seemed to be towards freedom. And, you know, as Tessie says, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the best of times, you could argue superficially, in terms of projecting into the future. And yet fundamentally, deep down, at the core, nothing had changed. The collectivists had not gone away. They were just in hiding, in a sense. They were being quiet. They were hunkered away in the university offices, writing books, continuing to lecture, continuing to teach the same garbage, but not making quite a big public display of it because they had been discredited. Their system had been discredited. But the collectivists were still there. The irrationalism was still there. The religionists actually had a greater position than ever in American politics. They'd basically, thanks to Ronald Reagan, taken over the Republican Party. And while, from an economic perspective, there was significant growth, entrepreneurship, innovation, progress, regulations had not gone away, taxes were still high and distortive, state was still growing, although under Bill Clinton, it did flatten out in terms of percentage of GDP. It stopped growing. It actually shrunk a little bit. But throughout the 90s, overall, when you looked at Silicon Valley, when you looked at .com, when you look at technological progress, when you look at all the wealth creation, when you look at the optimism of the American people, when you look even at government spending, when it had moderated, you could still be significantly optimistic. I mean, Bill Clinton, in his first 2 years, was very ambitious to move the country leftwards, but then he lost the House by a big margin in 1994. And at that point, the Republicans shut him down. And he did nothing for the rest of his term. Welfare reform, which was a big win politically for the Republican Party. Again, seemingly moving in the direction of freedom, seemingly moving in the direction of free markets. But it didn't stand the test. And at the end of the day, the test came with 9/11. The test came with the Bush administration and the American people's response to 9/11. The response to 9/11 was not a response of a confident people who were going to stand up for their values and stand up for their perspective on the world. 9/11 turned out to spawn a massive growth in government, massive increase in government surveillance of our lives, massive decrease in freedom. It spawned huge amounts of government spending, not just because of 9/11, but just because I guess Bush felt like he had to compensate for all his wars by spending money on everything else as well. It saw the largest restructuring of government around Homeland Security, the largest increase of the regulatory state since the 1970s with Sarbanes-Oxley. Sarbanes-Oxley? Yes, Sarbanes-Oxley. And I don't think America ever recovered. America's confidence, self-esteem took a blow. Its idea of self-reliance, idea of confidence, idea that it dominated the world took a blow. And I don't think it's ever recovered. And certainly the recent withdrawal from Afghanistan does nothing to help us recover. While economically, we continue to grow, much of that growth was now being fueled by a Federal Reserve dedicated under Greenspan and under Bernanke not to have recessions, to smooth out the business cycle, to make sure nobody ever suffered, no business ever closed. So when the dot-com bubble collapsed, when 9/11 happened, Greenspan flooded the market with money, lowered interest rates, to save the U.S. economy from recession. And without a doubt, creating the next crisis. The next crisis, of course, came 7 years later in 2008 with the great financial crisis. So 2001, America took a blow to its military confidence, to its political confidence, to its confidence in the world. In 2008, the United States took a blow to its economy, to the idea of freedom and capitalism. Because who was blamed for the financial crisis? Not Greenspan, not Bernanke, not Paulson, not politicians, not Dodd-Frank, but capitalism and markets and bankers. So capitalism now took a blow. The economic system that was the alternative to the collectivist systems of the past took a blow. Unjustified blow, but took a blow. People defending capitalism were absent from the debate in 2008 and 2009. I know because I was there. And now America's confidence was even more diminished. And the response was to diminish American freedom even more. So not only do we have the NSA listening to us, tracking us, not only have we given expanded powers to our government, not only do we go on futile wars and sacrifice our troops for the sake of our enemies, but now we regulate banks even more. Now we have established the pattern of bailing out everybody so that nobody suffers. So the Federal Reserve bailed out everybody except Lehman Brothers. Banks, non-banks, financial institutions, non-financial institutions. And in order to save capitalism, George Bush told us, we need to destroy it. We need to go against it. So we come out of the financial crisis more regulated, more controlled. So that's 2008, 2009. And of course, as an outcome of that, we get Obama, and Obamacare, and now we have a big chunk of our healthcare market, more regulated, more controlled, more under the government influence of government than even before. And all this time, all this is done not in the name of individualism, but in the name of the common good, the public interest. And with Obama, we see the rise and the self-confidence of the collectivist left grow. We see their agenda become more assertive, more expansive. We see the old Marxists woken up and ready again to fight for their cause. Everybody's forgotten that the Berlin Wall had fallen. After all, yes, the Soviet Union fell, but America was failing too. 9/11, the financial crisis, had proved that the American model was no good. We needed an alternative. We needed a new socialism. Racism was coming back in the form of critical race theory, activism on campuses. And of course, the left was becoming more and more emboldened and stronger and more powerful and more vocal after decades, really since the 1980s, of basically being silenced. All because of this evident decline of America. As a response to all this, we elect Ronald Reagan, we elect Donald Trump. Donald Trump brings forward the collectivism of the right. Nationalism, economic planning, big government. You know, the budget was more controlled under Obama because he had to deal with the Republican Congress than it was under Trump. Tariffs, hatred of immigrants. and just the general shutting down, closing off, and a focus on collectivism, American collectivism, American first. And of course, that lands us with the third major crisis that I think will be remembered from the last 30 years, and that is COVID. Where all that collectivism of left and right, all that reliance on government, all that dumbing down of Americans, all that pays massive dividends. When the country's shut down by politicians, Americans just go, okay. When the Federal Reserve bails out everybody, and whatever's not bailed out by the Federal Reserve, the federal government does with stimulus package after stimulus package after stimulus package, ever increasing in size, voted on and signed off by Republicans and Democrats. Nobody cares. No voices out there. When we're told we have to do this or we have to do that, people get upset maybe. Some people get upset about masks. They get upset maybe about vaccines. But all because it offends their particular political position and their tribalism. Not in the name of any kind of cause. So really what we've seen is the return of collectivism. The return of political collectivism, both on the left and on the right. Now, it's not communism on the left yet, and it's not fascism on the right yet. But clearly the left is moving in that direction. And clearly the right is moving in that direction. They might not call it communism. They might not call it fascism. It might not have the exact characteristics of the Soviet Union. It might not have the characteristics of Mussolini's Italy. But in both left and right, we're moving towards authoritarianism in the name of collectivism, in the name of the common good, in the name of the public interest, or in the name of racism, in the case of the left. And I think in response, it will ultimately be in the case of the right. And we're seeing that everywhere. Jimbo says, will the Chinese government bail out? Oh, I thought everybody, no, Evergrande. No, they'll probably let it fail as a warning sign to other private companies. Or they'll bail out elements of it, but they're not gonna float it completely. What we're seeing today is left and right become collectivist. Left and right become similar to one another. Yes, the differences in the cultural battle, but not that big. It's not like one of the sides really believes in free speech and the other one doesn't. It's not that one believes in individual liberty and the other one doesn't. No. We're seeing two political parties motivated by collectivism of a different kind, but no fundamental philosophical difference between them. We're seeing two political parties that are committed to a Platonic view of the world, committed to us, the people, being too ignorant, too stupid, too incapable of taking care of ourselves. Versus elites of one kind or another who can take care of us, who can tell us what to do, who can shape our lives. In different ways, of course, depending on the left or the right. And it really is time, therefore. It really is time, therefore, to stop calling them left and right. They're collectivists of various shades. Some more extreme, some less. Some more committed, some more consistent, some less. Some more moderate collectivists, some more radical collectivists. But they're all collectivists. Some of a more socialist flavor, some of a more fascist flavor. But they're all collectivists. The alternative to collectivism is not a different form of collectivism. The alternative to collectivism is individualism. So, what I encourage the Greeks and encourage the Austrians to do is to focus their efforts on advocating for individualism. Individualism in the political sense, as a defense of individual rights, being really the only purpose of government, and a defense of the moral right to live your life for your own happiness, as the morality of individualism. Individualism is a concept that bridges morality and ethics. It is the idea that the individual is an end of himself, that the purpose of his life is his own life, his own happiness, and that the way to do so is a political system focused on the individual's rights, freedoms. So what we need to do is abandon left and right and form a coalition around individualists. Some will be more consistent, some will be less consistent. But if their orientation is towards individualism, if their orientation is an acceptance of the concept of individual rights as the foundation for liberty, the foundation for government, that's the only alternative today. We need a political system, political party, a political movement based on the idea that all individuals possess individual rights, that governments are instituted to protect them, the rights to life, liberty, property, and the pursuit of happiness. And we should settle for nothing less. And in that sense, working politically with the left or the right is dangerous. And a sellout, and selling out. So it's time, always time, to be radical. And it's time to assert our differences. And it's time to get rid of these old, arbitrary designations that never really were very accurate, never really meant much, but now mean nothing. It's collectivism versus individualism. All kinds of forms of collectivism, left and right being some of them. All right. So that's what I've been talking about here in Europe. I think it's been well received, both in Athens and in Vienna. Lots of good questions, lots of good exchange of ideas, lots of good back and forth. So, it's early after kind of things opening up in Europe. So it's hard to get a lot of people. It's hard to get attention, but we're working on it. And hopefully there will be more opportunities to do things. I think there will be. I think there's a lot of interest in Ayn Rand. There's a lot of frustration with the existing system. It's not just in the United States where politics is the way it is. The UK, look at Boris Johnson in the UK, conservative, who is more an environmentalist than the left, moving the UK towards clean energy, unreliables, as Alex Epstein calls them. He just announced last week that he's going to raise taxes. He'll oversee the highest tax rates Britons have ever paid, more than when they paid under socialists in the 1960s. These will be the highest tax rates ever. We're seeing, what else has Boris Johnson done recently? There was just, Boris dedicated to the NHS, to socialized medicine, expanding socialized medicine. Horrible. And you're seeing so conservatives either adopting the leftist strategy or conservatives adopting the fascist strategy, like Orban in Hungary or certain elements in Poland. No free speech, not really, no media, no independent media. Still leftist economic policies, particularly corruption and cronyism. Hungary's economy is in the pits. It survives somehow because of European Union subsidizing it. a system of government where the prime minister or president or whatever can declare an emergency powers and take control. So you're seeing the right either succumb to the left or succumb to fascism. But the right in Europe today is all collectivist. There's no individualist party. There's no individualism as an idea, as a political idea, as a political movement in Europe today. In Greece today is ruled by center-left, center-right technocrats who think a little bit here, think a little bit. They lower taxes, say, yay, yippee. Austria is ruled by somebody who they had a lot of hope for. They thought would be a real change, somebody who would really bring some free market ideas. It hasn't happened. Not happening. Going nowhere. And now they're afraid, because of COVID, that they're going to start tightening up the rules in Austria again. Right now in Austria, nobody's wearing a mask. Even in the hotels, the staff is not wearing masks. First place I've been in Europe where the staff, or in America, where the staff doesn't wear hotels. But the staff in hotels doesn't wear masks. But they're worried now about shutting down. Everywhere you go, you have to show your vaccine card. You have to prove you're vaccinated. So here, we already have vaccine mandates in much of Europe, certainly in Austria. All right. Let us see. So, yeah, tomorrow I'll be talking, Thursday I'll be talking in Lisbon about progress and innovation. So that'll be a much more positive, optimistic, uplifting talk. All right. I like Corey's definition of technocrat. His definition is a rat that is into techno music. That's pretty accurate. All right, let's see. We've got a bunch of super chat questions. Let's see, any $20 one. Oh, we've got a 51. Okay, JJ, whatever. Thank you, by the way, JJ, for the $50. In cover, let's see, 70, 90. What about $100, guys? I know I'm not supposed to remind you, but target is 600. All right. In conversations with friends about the Atlantic slave trade, when I bring up the fact that the slaves were bought from fellow Africans and not kidnapped, the reaction I receive is one of disgust and incredulity. This topic is so toxic. Any thoughts? I mean, people want to evade, but the broader fact, which I think is more important, that they were bought from Africans, I don't think that's essential. I think the broader fact is that slavery was a human institution for almost all of human history. That slavery's been with us forever. And that it's only really capitalism that eliminated it. It's only the 19th century that you saw capitalism go away. That is, that slavery has always been with us. People have been buying and selling other people forever. The Hebrews did it in the Old Testament, and I'm sure before that it was done. The Greeks did it, the Romans did it, the barbarians did it, the Arabs did it, the Muslims did it, the Turks did it, obviously the Europeans did it. Africans have been enslaving Africans for millennia. So slavery's always been with us. It's always been an evil, but remember that in the Old Testament, God gives you instructions on how you should treat your slaves. So he wasn't against slavery in the Old Testament. He wants you to treat them humanely, but he wasn't against slavery. And that it's only in the 19th century, first in Britain, and then in some other countries, and ultimately in the United States, and then even later in places like Brazil, was slavery eradicated. It's an achievement, one of the achievements of the Enlightenment, one of the achievements of capitalism. But people don't want to think about it. They've accepted the guilt, and they just want to be done with it. They want to have the guilt. They want you to accept the guilt, and then they want to move on. And you're confronting them with, slavery's been around forever, or Africans sold slaves themselves. They don't want to engage with that kind of thinking, that kind of evaluation. Now, it's true that slavery is immoral and wrong no matter what. But and you have to make it clear that no matter who sells it to whom, no matter what the circumstances, slavery is wrong. But you see, they don't want to have to get into the issue. All right, capitalist Nick asked, do you know anything about Vivek Ramaswamy, CEO of Ravant, the author of bestseller Woke Inc.? He is a libertarian who loves capitalism, but doesn't understand the premise behind it. He is a passionate, smart man. Watch him on YouTube. Okay, I'll watch him. I think I've seen him, and I agree with you that he's smart, dedicated, and so on, but he doesn't get it. And this is, of course, common to libertarians, to people who claim to be defenders of capitalism, that they often don't know what they're defending. They don't understand it. They don't get the philosophical premises. They need Ayn Rand. They desperately need Ayn Rand. Corey asks, have you ever thought of doing more video rebuttals to Kyle Kulinski? He is a very arrogant, smug commentator on the left and really needs to be brought down a peg. He is also quite popular, I believe. Great for your channel. I've done a few Kyle Kulinski takedowns. I'll do more. But yes, he's smug and arrogant and full of it. And he's... the problem is they all sound the same, and it's like I take him down on one issue and it's the same as taking down the next issue. It's a real... But yes, I'll do more Kyle Kulinski videos. Gail says, I'll support a radical movement of individualism. Thank you, Gail. I appreciate the support. Dan, wow, $100. Thank you, Dan. This is great. Is there more to the picture of AOC at the Met Gala than the tax the rich slogan on her dress? After listening to Peikoff, the picture reminds me of abstract concepts, postmodernism, French Revolution, Jackson Pollock, throwing paint against the wall, emotionalism. I don't know what you were listening of Peikoff's, what you were listening of Peikoff's to. I think that's a sentence. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on here, right? There is the nihilism of taking a beautiful dress and spray painting it and wearing it to a cultural event where people get dressed up, where people wear fine clothes, where most of the audience is wealthy, because it's not just the Met Opera, it's the Met Gala, it's the opening event of the season. It's where supporters of the Met Opera, people who donate a lot of money to the Met Opera, people of wealth are going there. And it's spitting in the face. It's a purposeful spitting in the face of culture, of values, of the people that are going there, of the people she's going to be sitting with, who all probably voted for her, right? I don't know if they live where she ran, but they're all leftists. But and again, people dress up for this, people dress beautifully for this, and she's splashing paint on it and writing something. So there's definitely a nihilism there, a destructiveness, which is consistent with the postmodernism rejection of truth and beauty and any respect for culture. Why is she going to the Met Gala? Who the F invited AOC to the Met Gala? What does she know about opera? She obviously doesn't care about it. She's spitting in its face. It's way, way, way too beautiful an art form for scum like AOC to go to. Sorry. But she's disgusting. As I said, she's smart though. Look at what a brilliant publicity stunt it was. How much attention she's getting. How everybody's talking about it. Yeah, Adam says it's like the streaker at the Academy Awards that Peikoff talks about. Yes, but there's a sense in which, it's worse because it's a political message, spitting in the face of the institution, destroying a beautiful dress, and getting attention all at once. And it's not an anonymous streaker. It's a congresswoman, for God's sake. Somebody who's supposed to be part of our governing body. So it truly is despicable what she did, and it's truly despicable that she isn't being criticized more for it, and that the Met will ever invite her back is ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, the Met donors probably say, yeah, she's right, I feel guilty. They probably hate her behind her back, but they probably grovel before her beforehand. So it's not art. It's not Jackson Pollock, but it's the same attitude as Jackson Pollock. It's a spitting in the face of art. It's postmodernism, the lack of reality, truth, objectivity. It's the French Revolution because it's that kind of nihilism. Yes, I think all those are there. And in the end of the day, yeah, she's feeding off emotionalism. That's why everybody responds to it. All right, let's see. Yes, Charlie has a $20 question. What do you think is the origins of crime? Is it from poverty or envy? Maybe the inability to rise through simple yet honest means? I mean, crime is a consequence of a rejection of reality. It's the consequence of a mentality that wants to escape reality. And look, crime has always existed. It's always been around. It was the way in which many people, larger and larger pieces of the population, survived in the past. So crime comes primarily from hatred of the world, hatred of reality, and the hatred of the fact that you have to work, that reality requires you to make an effort, that requires you to work, to be productive, to create, to think. Because what are they doing? What is the thing that most symbolizes criminals? It's lack of thinking. It's not an issue of IQ. It's an issue of using it. Criminals don't use it. Criminals don't use their mind. They use something, but they don't use reason. They don't use the basic means of survival. And they don't want to, and they're afraid to use it, and they don't have the confidence, they don't have the self-esteem to use it. So it's a consequence of hatred of reality, of low self-esteem, of no confidence. It's more likely in poor people, but it's not a consequence of poverty. Lots of people are poor who don't commit crimes. And there are quite a few criminals who are brought up middle class or even wealthy. Bernie Sanders is a criminal. It's an attempt to cheat reality because you don't like it. You don't like the terms that it places on you. You have to work for a living. You have to make an effort. Envy definitely plays a role, I think. It's not an issue of income inequality. It's just envy. If they didn't envy your income, they'd envy your good looks, or they'd envy something where you are different or better than them. So, I don't think it's a lack of ability. There are many people with equal ability who do fine. It's primarily an issue of not using your mental capabilities to guide your life and not wanting to, rejecting the idea of doing it. Of course, crime doesn't pay, but you'd have to actually think long term to know that. And sometimes crime does pay, at least for a long time. If pay you mean just the money. But the spiritual price for it, they don't understand because they don't have self-esteem. So they don't have that to lose. If they had self-esteem, they would never become criminals. All right, Bree asks, the SBA just lent me a pile of money on a 30-year, 3.75 fixed rate. SBA, the Small Business Administration, wow. They tried to get me to take 5 times as much. Would you take it? It's called EIDL loan for anyone who owns a business. Also, thanks everybody. Yeah, I would take it. They're offering you a loan at 3.75. It depends on what your business is, but if you think you can make on that money a return higher than 3.75, why not take it? I mean, it's going to be given to somebody. You might as well use it to better your life. It's like I take out the biggest mortgage I can because at 3.75%, I can make more money on that money somewhere else. So I don't see a problem in taking the money. It's not a gift, it's a loan. It's a bad loan for them, but that's their business, not yours. All right, let's see. What do we have? We have a bunch of $5 questions. Okay, Daniel, any thought on Ted Lasso? Seems like a good fun show and positive. Yeah, I like Ted Lasso. It's a little silly, particularly the second season. I thought the first season was better. It's lighthearted, it's fun, and it's very positive. So the greatest virtue of Ted Lasso is it lacks any cynicism, particularly when you expect the cynicism to come. Like, you expect something bad to happen. You expect him to fall flat on his face, and he doesn't. So I'm a fan. I like Ted Lasso. I've watched both seasons. I like the positivity. It's not great, and the humor sometimes is just stupid. And the second season is not as good as first, but it's good. And it's a good sign in the culture, one of the few good signs in the culture, that people want just good, to watch something fun that has positive people that do positive things and are not constantly battered around by fate or by evil. Michael writes, every man is guilty of all the good he did not do. Yeah, it was, properly understood, that's correct, but you'd have to really think about what the proper understanding of that. What is good? What is good you did not do? What does that even mean? I'm not sure true happiness is possible in today's rational culture. That's probably true. True happiness, right? It's an issue of degree. You're just lying to yourself if you think it is. I don't know, but I think the more controlled a society is, the more we're restricted, the more we have to waste time doing stupid bureaucratic things, the more we have to waste time, dealing with the bureaucracy, dealing with the government. The less time we have to truly fulfill ourselves and to be happy. So yes, I think it's hard to be completely happy in a mixed economy, in the kind of world we live in today. Let's see, more Michael questions. A third party will never happen. The only way we win is by making the Republican Party a lot better. Fine, a lot better means an individualist party. So I don't care how you get there. Just figure out a way. I don't think you can do it to the Republican Party. The Republican Party is today the party of the evangelicals. You make the evangelicals better. I don't see how you do that. I don't see how you do that. So, I mean, the evangelicals dominate Republican politics. It's not even close. And evangelicals are growing. Even though church attendance is shrinking among evangelicals, the commitment to the tribe of evangelicals is growing. And their political commitment to the positions of evangelical is growing even faster. So I don't see how the Republican Party can survive that. It's why Ayn Rand did not vote for Ronald Reagan, because she knew this would happen. That if the religionists established themselves within the Republican Party, they would take it over and destroy it, and that's exactly what has happened. I've given you this analysis. It's going to happen. If CRT is more dangerous than religion, that doesn't help you. You die by the sword, you die by the gun, you die by the knife. You're still dead. Doesn't matter. So you can pretend, you can delude yourself, you can evade to think that by supporting the religionists you'll do okay, but you're completely deluded if you think that. And if you support the left, you're dead. So you're dead in both cases. That's why both need to be abandoned. Was Plato's system driven by envy and making sure people with pride were taken down a notch, or did this desire to destroy the able come later? I think the desire to destroy the able comes later. I don't think there's quite the identification of the able in Plato. I think it's more, I think philosophically, Plato's system is driven by a particular view of philosophy. I don't think it's driven by psychology. I think it's driven by a particular view of the world. So no, I don't think this issue of pride or taking people down a notch is what Plato's about. Plato's about his observation that people cannot, his identification, which I think is wrong, but that people can't take care of themselves, that they cannot find happiness, that they cannot find success, and that they need guidance, or more than guidance, they need an authoritarian to tell them what they to do. So it's Plato's system is wrong for epistemological and ethical reasons. And, psychologically, some people are driven to it because of envy, but I don't think that's the core of what is going on there. Certainly not for Plato. I attended 3 events of your events in London, but Butler and Hannon, what did you think? Kansuk, bad versus tribalism. Are you negative for the UK? Whoa. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, so I'm glad you attended all the events. Daniel Hannan is an exceptional speaker. He's very, very good. I guess I should call him Lord Hannan, but he's a very good speaker. Like most free market thinkers, he ignores individualism. Like most free market thinkers, he ignores philosophy, and he ignores, he thinks you can just make economic arguments and make progress. I think the same thing is true of Eamon Butler. I have a huge amount of respect for both of them, but we disagree. We disagree fundamentally about the importance of individualism and about the importance of philosophy to defending liberty, and Ayn Rand's philosophy in particular. Okay, Wyatt asked, a recent article in the American Thinker made some claims about ARI over their COVID views and Amish. Have you read it, and will ARI make a response? I have not read it. I didn't even know it came out. But American Thinker has been for a long time now dedicated to trying to sully my name and the Institute's name. So I'm not surprised if it's misrepresenting, but it might not be. It might be just that they disagree with our positions on COVID. But my guess is they're also misrepresenting, because that's what they've done on my foreign policy and a bunch of other things. So American Think has at least one writer, maybe a couple, who clearly want to go after me and the Iron Man Institute. I don't think it's worth addressing. I don't think that many people follow the publication. Dean Perlmutter. Hey, just joined, was listening to Leonard Peikoff lecture. I was wondering what you think about separating the art from the artist. People like Michael Jackson or Hitchcock. Well, I certainly think you need to separate the art from the artist. You don't have to know anything about Michelangelo to love the David. It turns out that Michelangelo murdered somebody. I don't know why I'm saying bad things about Michelangelo, but would the David be any less of a great art? So, you've got to separate the art from the artist. Now, it's true that up to a point that's possible, but beyond a point it's not possible, because the art is of the artist, and if the artist is crazy, that's going to be reflected in his art. But absolutely, I am for making an aesthetic evaluation of the art separate from knowing who the artist is, and whether enjoying the art or not enjoying the art. Now, Michael Jackson, I think the art is so superficial. Why would you be that interested in? What are you saving it for? Yeah, I would definitely watch Hitchcock movies, even if it turns out that Hitchcock was a bad man. Corey asks, thanks, Yaron. Got to head out early. Lady friend of mine is hungry and dangerous. Yeah, that definitely has priority over the Yaron Brook Show. Naveen asks, any interesting places you've been on this trip in UK, Austria, or anywhere else? I was in Athens. I was just in London. Didn't go anywhere in the UK other than London. Vienna, and I'll be in Lisbon tomorrow. So those are the places I've been. Hasn't been a lot of sightseeing. A little bit in Athens, but that's it. I was going to go to a museum today, but then a bunch of work landed in my lap, so I landed up doing work. So not much sightseeing, tourism on this trip. Not much fun on this trip. Mostly work. Work is fun, but mostly work. All right, I think we'll call it a night. I'm ready to go to sleep. It's a short show today, but it's okay. Once in a while, we'll do short shows, particularly when they're on the road. And you guys, I can now the show's kind of over, so I can bug you. You guys are not, contributions are thin. Not sure what I'm going to be able to do about it, but those of you who are not listening live, you can clap. There's a button on YouTube that is clap, and you can make a contribution that way. Of course, you can contribute through YaronBrookShow.com/support, Patreon, Subscribestar, and Locals. And Wanda Freeman says, hi, Yaron. I saw the whole GB News show. You have excellent voice quality. You should use it to advantage. Thank you. I hope I did use it to advantage. I hope so. Anyway, yes, I'll try to get clips. Wanda Freeman, could you tell me if you have the whole show or you just watch it live? But if somebody has a recording of the whole show, can you send it to me? I'd like Action Jackson to make clips of my appearance on GBU's News to be uploaded. All right. Bye, guys. I will talk to you all probably in the next couple of days with a show from Lisbon. Bye.